So not too long ago, I've made a shorts video on 15 cards that are really good against ISHIZU Tearlaments. Today's video will be a little different because I'll go in depth on how the deck operates and how you can defeat it practically speaking. After watching this video, you should have a much better understanding of the deck and how to counter it, but of course, before we jump right into it, friendly reminder to smash the like and subscribe button. Let's try to get this video to 1,000 likes, I know we can do it. And now let's get right into it. Alright, so first things first, ISHIZU Tearlaments is a deck whose main characteristic is triggering a bunch of graveyard effects in order to fusion summon or control the graveyard during either player's turn. The most oppressive fusion monsters that they can summon on your own turn especially would be Kaleidoheart, Dragostapelia, or even Rulkaros, but other cards such as Mudragon of the Swamp or Garura can also be problematic in case they have Super Poly. And Kitkallos is obviously a no-brainer here because they can search any Tearlaments card, which could be Meru, Reinoheart, or Sullik, or Crime. Because of the fact that the deck can actually search trap cards in order to supplement and diversify its array of interruptions, people have chosen to stray away from the typical board breakers such as Dark Ruler and even Super Poly. Super Poly is easy to deal with because all you really have to do is ensure that you don't really have any two monsters on the field that can lose out to Mudragon, Garura, or Dragostapelia. Typically, a big end board for ISHIZU Tearlaments would be a Sprite Elf pointing to potentially Abyss Dweller or Kaleidoheart with maybe a Beatrice or Baron on top of that, and of course, 1 to 2 trap cards, so the Sullik or the Crime, as well as some ISHIZU monsters in the graveyard, which would be Kaldo and Mudora, and all of that would be supplemented by Tearlaments Softness, Herald of Orange Light, and or Kelbeck, whatever. They can't always have everything, but the majority of the time they have at least half of it, and the more they have, the harder it'll be for you to beat them. So you see, the deck's focus is to do half of the action on their own turn, and then the other half on your turn, hence the meme, our turn. With that knowledge in mind, you have to figure out ways to beat the deck and also identify the best deck to use said strategy. Fortunately, the ISHIZU Tearlaments deck, as well as pretty much any Tier 0 deck ever created in history, is kind of like a double-edged sword because it is so good against everyone that everybody knows about it and everybody prepares against it, which kind of makes it so that the deck ends up checking itself out. What I mean by it checks itself out is that you kind of have to deck build to beat the other decks, kind of, but not really, since your main focus is actually the mirror match, since it is going to be the #1 matchup that you're going to be facing. Therefore, you might actually have to compromise on consistency and reliability against the other decks in order to increase your win rate against the mirror match. And this is actually something that we've been able to see with the first place deck list from YCS Dortmund, which was won by Vincenzo, by the way, congratulations to you. And he managed to win with 9 Bestial monsters, but 0 Herald of Orange Lights. That means that he's super ready for the ISHIZU Tearlaments mirror match, but if someone drops a Dimension Shifter against him, he doesn't play Herald of Orange Lights, so there is basically a 0% chance he can negate it. And also, since the deck doesn't play Herald of Orange Light, you can pretty much know for a fact that if your opponent successfully summons Dweller, you can't really do anything about it. That means that your main goal is to play a deck that simultaneously doesn't lose to Bestial monsters, because that's what people are playing right now, as well as a deck that can utilize a lot of Insta-Win cards that pretty much just make Tearlaments scoop whenever they see it. The best decks to achieve just that would be Draco Slayer, Flunderies, Medalce, Exorcister, ISHIZU Naturia, and even Bestial Sprite. And there are a bunch of Insta-Win cards out there such as Necro Valley, Abyss Dweller, pretty much anything that shuts down the graveyard. And there's also several other decks that can be a threat to Tearlaments. These were just the main ones that actually came to my mind. Another interesting way of winning the game would be with the infamous Mystic Mind deck out, but it might be a little hard to resolve. It can get negated by Baron or Crime, and also the field spell can destroy it if they have a Grave Shuffler in the grave as well as a Tearlament name, so just resolving the Mystic Mind might be a little too much, but if it does resolve, their only out would be the Heartbeats. So in other words, if you can resolve Mystic Mind successfully, and you also have something like Dark Bribe or Solemn Judgment, or Curse Seal of the Forbidden Spell, you're gooch. And even though this wasn't a part of the initial video, I actually really want to talk about Raw Sphere mode in this one. Making your opponent lose monsters is cool and all, but do you want to know something that's just as cool? Turning off your opponent's trap cards. Yes, Sullik and Crime can only be used if you control a Tearlaments monster, and that is one major flaw for the deck. Sometimes it looks like my board is super full, and I just get Kaiju'd, and all of a sudden, I can't really use any of my cards anymore. And since Sprite Elf can only revive back a level 2 monster on the main phase, such as, Diviner of the Heralds or Tearlaments Meru, you can actually lose big time to Raw Sphere mode. And decks like Runic Sprite and Draco Slayer really don't care that much about the normal summons, so it's really convenient for them. Draco Slayer is like engineered to be that deck, man. It can search Necro Valley, it can make Abyss Dweller, the deck has everything going for it. Now, what if you're playing a mirror match and you're really trying to win going second? Well, first of all, winning going first is kind of easy. All you really have to do is ensure that Abyss Dweller resolves, you kind of have a follow-up, you can make Dark Law with the Mass Change second, and that's it, that's all. But going second is really rough, and especially if both players have equal skill, then the only thing that determines the winner would be variance. But if your opponent is kind of worse than you, then you can actually catch him off guard and outplay him. The best way to do that would be to resolve the Abyss Dweller and Zeus combo, which kind of makes them lose every single card on their field, and they don't get any recursion. But if your opponent actually has a cracked hand, then you're gonna have to draw even more cracked, and the best way to do that would be to draw a bunch of Bisted monsters, because they're just insane at not only stopping your opponent, but also generating advantage for you. They're level 6 monsters, so being able to turn them into Beatrice or Wallow is exactly how you're trying to break boards going second. You're never trying to trade 1-for-1 in mirror matches at all, because whoever has the most amount of resources will always win. So cards like DD Crow are just not it, or Veiler or Imperb, but cards like the Bisted monsters, which are pretty much +1s because they don't go to the graveyard once they are done fulfilling their purpose, is absolutely fantastic. Reaper is also an option, and it can actually make your opponent lose out on a lot of advantage, but unfortunately your opponent can actually play through it by sending the crime from the deck to the grave, and then recycle back one of the Kitkallos from the banish to the extra deck. And if you're going up against a big board that doesn't have Dweller, you can still kind of win, because you can start chain blocking your graveyard effects so that you can jump over their Tearlaments monster, and that way they don't have their trap cards active anymore, and you can start playing in main phase 2. A very clever usage of the battle phase can definitely get you very far in Yu-Gi-Oh! I can guarantee you that. There are obviously way more things to say about this matchup, but that probably would be the best way to sum it up, and that's it for this video, so thank you guys so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.